Hello aspirants, looking at current affairs for 18th December, Sunday. The news items which we have picked up from the Hindu for Sunday are these 14. The news items are more because on Sunday you have special articles on science and tech and also special articles on health. So those are also included. The first news item is Varda fallout. It's going to be a searing summer for Chennai. So this is regarding the Varda cyclone which struck Chennai city, which has resulted in many trees being uprooted. So this cyclone Varda tree loss which has happened is said to be over 1 lakh. So 1 lakh trees were uprooted due to cyclone Varda. So this Municipal Corporation of Chennai in 2014 had passed a resolution that they want to increase the tree cover in the city from present 6.5% to 33%. Now it will have to work much harder to achieve this goal. So this is one point about the tree loss. Even in editorials we have discussed earlier, if pruning of trees is done, especially during this season when cyclones strike, it would result in lesser loss of trees. This was seen in some regions where this was done. Tree pruning means the excess foliage which is there is cut off of the tree, so then it can withstand the cyclone. So that way, so this is one point, and another point is that the temperature will increase. So temperature increase by 1 degree Celsius is expected because of not adequate tree cover, because of the tree lost. So these are the 2 points which is there in this article. Then the next news item is Lieutenant General Bipin Rawat is next army chief. So the government has announced the next army chief, and this Lieutenant General Bipin Rawat is superseding 2 other army officers. So till date, except once in 1980s, the army chief is always the senior most officer appointed. But this is the second time after 1983 when Indira Gandhi chose to supersede officers and appoint one. This is in 2016, the present BJP government. They have superseded 2 officers and appointed another one, means third in line as the army chief. So this has resulted into a controversy. Then air chief also has been appointed. Air Marshal B.S. Dhona has been appointed as the air chief. So there is no controversy, he is the senior most appointed. Then the next article is Italy's top court orders retrial in Augusta Westland bribery case. So this Augusta Westland bribery case we have discussed earlier too. This was the deal for VVIP helicopters which was awarded to Augusta Westland, which is an Italian company. It's a French-based, it's an Italian consortium, Finmeccanica, of which this Augusta Westland is a part, which is UK based. So this controversy emerged in Italy. It was announced on Italian radio, and since then Indian government has also started, the CBI has started investigating in this matter. We have also seen earlier that even the then army chief has been arrested as well. So this helicopter scandal, the latest turn of events in this, Mr. Tyagi, who was arrested recently by the CBI. So this latest turn is that the punishment which was awarded in Italy, the Italy Milan trial court had awarded punishment to Finmeccanica CEO Giuseppe Orsi and Augusta Westland chief Bruno Spagnolini. So these 2 were awarded sentences in August 2016 by Milan Appeals Court in Italy. So this has now been appealed and the top court has ordered retrial in Italy. So this will have its ramifications for Indian case as well, because it is only evidences from Italy that the CBI case is also majorly dependent on. That's how the case initiated. So this is the latest development. They have been charged on corruption and falsifying invoices. So there was kickback involved. We have also seen this, that in the complete deal around 10% was given as kickback, 10 to 12%. So this is the case. It's a 3,600 crore deal. The next news item is IIT Madras Group develops alternative system for communication during disaster. So this is a system called DISANet. So this is low cost communication system. It has 4 subsystems under it. Means Wi-Fi technology to a satellite link, a single carrier GSM, and LTE, which is long term evolution. What is this? We'll discuss down here. So these LTE is the standard system for high speed wireless communication for mobile phones and data terminals. So this is there. It's 4G. So near 4G actually. So that technology is called LTE. So these 4 subsystems will be part of this low cost communication system, which can be transported in the site of disaster. So through that, then simple messages, text messages, voice messages, video communication can happen, and rescue workers, the master operation control system, and National Disaster Management Authority, through the hierarchy, they can all be linked and communication be sent to and fro. Even it will help even in citizens who want to use this for communicating essential messages like I am safe, or their name, age, gender, so that they can be known where they are located presently at the time of disaster. So these messages could also be allowed. So this system is being developed by IIT Madras. So this is seen, it's here, it's mentioned here that it will be compatible with basic mobile phones also. So it will be carried, so it will be carried through trucks and can be placed in a location, because it's satellite communication. So the system is needed, so it's low cost, not heavy, and it can be mounted in. For LTE also, it needs to be at a particular height, so that can be achieved presently through balloons. So that's what is being used presently. They are also researching on drones to be used for LTE based stations. So this is also found that LTE based stations are mounted at a height of 15 to 20 meters. So how can that be done? They achieved this by tethered balloons, and now they are finding out if they can use drones as well for this. So that test is going on. Presently, what is used for disaster management, the disaster messages during the time of disaster, is the walkie-talkie handsets with these rescue workers or the police officers have. But then these are quite costly, they run in lakhs, so it is not easily made available to all personnel. So that affects the communication system. So this will be low cost system, compatible with normal mobile phones, not even smartphones are required. So this will be much more beneficial. So this is DISANET. Then the GSM, the terms which are coming up, we'll just discuss them. So GSM technology, what is this? This is the 2G technology. So 1G, first generation of mobile telephony, was analog. Then from 2G onwards, it is digital network which started. So from 2G onwards, it is GSM. So global system for mobile communication. So this is actually a standard developed by European telecommunication standards, but now it is the global standard which is used for mobile communication. 90% of the market is based on GSM technology. So these are 2G networks developed as a replacement for first generation analog cellular networks. Then another long-term evolution which came up, this we'll see. UMTS, Universal Mobile Telecommunication Services, is 3G broadband transmission which is used, and LTE is 4th generation, standard of high-speed wireless communication for mobile phones and data terminals. So this is at very high speed. So this was also the trademark of European telecommunication standards, registered trademark, and it is used for wireless data communication. So it's commonly marketed as 4G LTE. It says it does not meet the specific technical criteria for 4G technology, that is little higher, but then it has been allowed to mention as 4G technologies for marketing and commercial purposes. So this is there. So you can see the technologies here. 1G analog and digital, the way you have mobile phones too. You have clocks also, analog clock and digital clock. So how analog clock maintains time and digital clock in digital system. So that digital telephony started with 2G. So that is time division multiple access and GSM, global system. So you had other types of phones too, GSM and other sets too. So presently GSM has dominated, 90% of the phones are GSM, and now we are further moving higher and higher towards LTE. So this data speed also increases with this. You can see the market impact. It's seen when was it launched, initiated, and the peak rate at which it can function. So 3.5G and LTE run more than 1 Gbps then. Right? Megabits per second. This is gigabits per second. Then the next news item is Bengaluru researchers mimic nature to produce richer color. So how are colors produced in nature? One is the dyes and pigments which give specific color. So that color is produced by selective absorption of light. So when light falls on such colors, the selective absorption results in only color which is there remaining and visible. So because white light comprises of all colors. So when light falls on an object, then how the color is visible, it depends on that. So presently we also see that the screens, mobile screens and laptop screens, when you use them in sunlight, they are not visible. So why is that the case? Because they have backlit panels. So this backlit color display is the light coming from inside the mobile phone on the screen. So this light gives you the display by contrast. When sunlight falls on it from outside, then that is competing with the light coming from the backlit display. So that results in, of course, sunlight is much more brighter. That results in not having a clear contrast and you can't see anything. So here an objective. So this happens with all screens, the LED screens, LCD screens, both. Light emitting diode screens too, and LCD. LCD is liquid crystal display screen. So both result in this effect. What can be done is that crystals which help in scattering of light. So scattering of light is another way in which colors are formed. So this is seen in butterfly. The colorful colors of the butterfly are due to scattering of light by the particles which are arranged in an order. So those particles scatter light. So this results in various colors becoming visible. So such crystals can be formed, arranged in a particular manner that they scatter light in such a way. So such experiments are being undertaken, and these Bengaluru researchers have also designed a crystalline material that selectively scatters specific colors of light. So this has much potential because this is what is required these days. So in nature also it says nanoside particles and colloids are responsible for producing this structural colors by scattering of light. So they have overcome this challenge which is there because colloidal particles arranging them in a particular manner seems difficult, but they have found a way out to transport these colloidal particles to target size and arrange them with particular size and symmetry. So this is the advancement which has been done by these researchers from India. Then the next news item is IIT Madras researchers prove the superiority of arsenic water filter. So arsenic is one of the poisons which is found in water, that is found in various places. Even in Punjab, arsenic poisoning of water is quite high. So these arsenic in this drinking water needs to be eliminated. So this filter had been developed by IIT Madras researchers. This filter had come under scrutiny and criticism because it was felt that the filter which is absorbing all the arsenic and providing arsenic free water, from this the arsenic may be seeping back into the filtered water. So there was some doubt on this matter, but the researchers conducted an exhaustive study on it and have found that no such thing happens. Arsenic water filter is far superior than other filters which are available in the market. So they have proved that. They've also got venture funding. So funding has been provided to them, and they are also planning to go global with this arsenic water filter which they have developed. So even World Health Organization's limit of arsenic in water is 10 parts per billion. What they have achieved is lower than 10 also. So that is much more beneficial. So this is the development. The arsenic in two forms will be absorbed by this arsenic water filter, arsenate and arsenite. So that is the arsenic is poisonous. It can result in, it's called slow poison, and it's mass poisoning which takes place because if drinking water is contaminated with arsenic. So this the health effects which it has, adverse health effects can be as bad as cancer and even genetic abnormalities. Then the next news item is the sterilization skew. So sterilization means contraception. It's a contraception technique that the fertility does not remain any longer and the couple can ensure that they may no longer have kids. So sterilization can be done in two ways. This is almost permanent sterilization. So that is vasectomy and tubectomy. So vasectomy is conducted on men. So this is vas deferens, the tube which you see here. So this is cut. So that is the way that vasectomy helps in sterilization in men, and this is tubectomy. So fallopian tube, the tube is cut on both sides, so it does not reach the ovaries. So this is tubectomy for females. Now the research says and the study says that in tubectomy the surgical risks are also involved, recovery time is also much larger, and complications may also take place, sometimes even death. But vasectomy is quite simpler. It takes less recovery time and complications are also rare. Yet what is prominent in India is tubectomy. So the female undergoes sterilization and not the male. Presently the government had observed vasectomy fortnight. So this was to create awareness amongst male about sterilization. So that is one aspect which is highlighted. So India's total fertility rate is 2.3%. So total fertility rate means amount of children which would be produced by a woman, reproduction by a woman in her lifetime. So that fertility rate on an average of the entire country comes to 2.3%, means approximately you will say 2 children. So that we expect it to, because it is an average, it will be in points also, but that is how it is understood. So this we want to bring it down to 2% also, and which will happen over the decade. The replacement level fertility is a term when the total fertility rate is such that the average child born per woman is the same as the dying population. So number of children born is equal to the number of people dying in that year. So that is called replacement level fertility. So we want to achieve this replacement level fertility too. So that is a term explained. Then the next news item is uncovering the surge in renal failure deaths. So renal means kidney related. So kidney related deaths, kidney failure deaths are increasing in India. There is a study which shows that renal failure deaths are much more than the deaths due to HIV and AIDS too. And the most common cause for renal failure in India is diabetes. So this also shows that diabetes goes undetected, because renal failure, kidney failure in cases of diabetes occur at a very later stage. Means if diabetes is not diagnosed and proper care is not taken and it is not treated, only then renal failure occurs and the person may die. Other causes are also there. Cardiovascular diseases, hypertension also result in renal failure and deaths. So this is the study which highlights this. The total number of deaths in rural areas due to kidney failure is much higher, but the death rate is higher in urban areas. And also it is seen that in eastern and southern parts, in these eastern and southern states in India, the death due to renal failure is much higher, and these are for causes unknown. So this is a study which has been undertaken and was published in the Lancet journal, which points out all this. Then the next news item is Jammu and Kashmir has no sovereignty, Supreme Court. So this was the ruling of the Supreme Court on hearing an appeal from the case in the Jammu and Kashmir High Court, in which SBI, the SBI branch, State Bank of India, had appealed because the Jammu and Kashmir High Court had ruled that SARFAESI Act, which you must be knowing about, Securitization, Reconstruction of Financial Assets and Enforcement of Security Interest Act of 2002. So we'll discuss what is this act also about. So this act cannot be enforced in Jammu and Kashmir because it goes against the Transfer of Properties Act, which is there in Jammu and Kashmir. So that is why the High Court ruled that this collides with Transfer of Property Act of Jammu and Kashmir of 1920. So this reason was given, and the reason it said was that the law made by Parliament cannot be extended to the Jammu and Kashmir government if it affects the laws made by the state legislature. So state legislature getting precedence over the Parliament in Jammu and Kashmir. This was the verdict of the High Court. But presently the Supreme Court has reverted this High Court's judgment, Jammu and Kashmir High Court. It says that there is no sovereignty to Jammu and Kashmir outside the Indian Constitution. So the first and foremost, they are citizens of India, all Jammu and Kashmir nationals. They have their own constitution, but that constitution is also allowed under Article 370 of the Indian Constitution. So they are subordinated to the Indian Constitution. So this was the point put forth by the Supreme Court invalidating the High Court's order. So what is this SARFAESI Act and what is this Article 370 about? We'll see. So this is SARFAESI Act. So this gives the power of cease and desist to the banks. Means if somebody is not able, if the borrower is not able to repay the loan, that the bank can give a notice in writing to the defaulting borrower, and he gets 60 days time within which he has to discharge his liabilities, repay the loan amount, the entire amount with interest, whatever it may be. And if the borrower fails to comply with this notice, then the banks have options which they can take up. So it can take possession of the security for the loan. So security for the loan can be anything, some asset, it can be a property too. So the bank can take possession of that. It can sell or lease or assign the right over the security to somebody else. It can manage the same or appoint any person to manage the same. So that security comes under them. So it may be a property too, and with respect to property, there's a law. So to maintain the demographic of Jammu and Kashmir, this law was framed. So how land is in whose name land is in Jammu and Kashmir. So that is important. They don't allow outsiders to come in and settle to maintain the demographics. So this was the point, and Jammu and Kashmir High Court had made Sarfaisi Act not applicable there because of this provision. But the Supreme Court now has said that no, the Parliament's law is supreme and it will prevail over the state law. So Article 372, what is Article 370? You can look up here. So this is, the title of this article is Temporary Provisions with Respect to the State of Jammu and Kashmir. So this is a controversial article. Even BJP manifesto before elections, it said that we would have a complete debate on Article 370, discussing it from all perspectives. So of course they are against Article 370. No special provision should be provided to Jammu and Kashmir. But this is how the constitution has been framed up to ensure that Jammu and Kashmir has its identity maintained as well while it has been integrated. So any forceful application or revocation of this article will have drastic consequences. Anyway, it is a sensitive matter. So we'll have to wait and watch how the government acts on this matter too. So this Article 370 says that the provisions of Article 238 shall not apply in state of Jammu and Kashmir. So this article is no longer there in the constitution. So it was for Part B states. So earlier states were divided into parts, Part A, Part B and so on. So presently this has no meaning. The power of Parliament to make laws for the state shall be limited to those matters in the union list and those matters in the concurrent list. There are three lists you should know: union list on which center can make laws, concurrent list on which both can make laws, and the third list is state list on which the states can make laws. So center will make laws, Parliament will make laws on these two lists subjects, and these should be declared by the President to correspond to matters specified in the instrument of accession. So whatever is mentioned in the instrument of accession, only on those matters the President can declare and the legislature can make laws. So other matters in the said list, this can be done with the concurrence of the government of the state. So if state government of Jammu and Kashmir complies, the President can make laws on other matters in this list as well. So instrument of accession basically talked of matters like foreign relations and all those matters. So communication, defense, foreign relations. So that is there. Then other part is, this part is fine. The third part is, notwithstanding anything in the foregoing provisions of this article, President may by public notification declare that this article shall cease to be operative or shall be operative only with such exceptions and modifications from such date as he may specify. Means the President, that is the central government, has the power to nullify this Article 370, that it will cease to operate or operate with exceptions and modifications. This can be done, provided, this is important, provided that the recommendation of the Constituent Assembly of the state will be necessary before the President issues such a notification. So there is a Constituent Assembly for the state which was also formed. The state constitution was formed under that. So with the recommendation of that, only then this can be done. So this is the provision within Article 370. So it is not permanent, but it has been made into a permanence in the constitution and even in effect. But then even if there are requirements to modify it, it should be done with concurrence of the state. It cannot be imposed, because imposition of any change will result in drastic consequences. So if the government wants to be adventurous, it may try, but we'll have to wait and watch. The next news item is Tajikistan India step up security ties. So this is regarding Tajikistan President who was on a 5-day visit to India. So he has said that Tajikistan is also interested in maintaining peaceful relations in Afghanistan. Even counter-terrorism related treaties were signed. So MOUs were signed on preventing financing of terrorism and money laundering. Also bilateral investment avoidance related treaties on then, and also on avoidance of double taxation. These were also signed with Tajikistan. Tajikistan is here. It's not a neighbor of India, means we don't have a land boundary. It's through Afghanistan that the two countries are connected. Plus also from Afghanistan linked to Iran. So Tajikistan also does not have a boundary with Iran, but Iran here, the Chabahar port which we are developing in Iran, giving access to Afghanistan, will also go ahead, and Tajikistan is also appreciating the efforts made by India. So this is also there. It says it will provide connectivity to Tajikistan also, the Chabahar port and the connectivity which will be provided further. We have already built road in Afghanistan, the Zaranj-Delaram road. So this is about Tajikistan. So with respect to Afghanistan and related to terrorism, the country is there for India, as the bilateral relations on those aspects are there, and plus it wants investments. It's asking for investments from India into its projects here. Also, hydroelectric project 1 has already seen investment from India, and it is asking for more as well. So that is there. And in 2017, it will be the 25th anniversary since the diplomatic ties have been established between the two nations. So Tajikistan earlier was part of USSR. So that is the history. 1991 when disintegration of USSR happened. So the country was born. Then the next news item is India-Pakistan nurse myths on Indus Treaty, says Professor. So the World Bank brokered Indus Water Treaty between India and Pakistan, in which the rivers Indus and its 5 tributaries Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas and Satluj are shared between the 6 rivers are shared between India and Pakistan in such a way that the first 3 rivers Indus, Jhelum and Chenab have their rights on them are with Pakistan majorly, and Ravi, Beas and Satluj are with India. But then we can have projects on other countries' rivers too, provided they are run of the river projects, they do not block the river flow. So we do have, and there are controversies which keep on emerging on projects on the Indus Water Treaty. This is a professor who is speaking about the myths regarding the Indus Water Treaty which both India and Pakistan have. So on the part of Pakistan, it says that Pakistan is complaining that there is a slowdown of discharge in the 3 rivers which it has, Indus, Jhelum and Chenab. So it says that this is a deliberate slowdown because of India been using excess water and not allowing it to run off into Pakistan, because the rivers flow from India to Pakistan and then drain out into the Arabian Sea. So India is the upper riparian state that way. So this is the complaint which Pakistan keeps on making, that there is a slowdown of discharge and this is deliberate. So deliberate slowdown of discharge. And this, the professor says, this is Professor Romshu of Jammu and Kashmir, he says that this is not because of any deliberate action by India, but this is due to climate change. So because of the fast changing discharge pattern, this is happening and not because of any deliberate slowdown. So this is the point which he makes, that it is melting of glaciers, global warming, which is to be accused rather than India. And on the part of India, it says that India has a huge amount of discharge with itself and it can use it to retain millions of acres of water, acre feet of water, which can irrigate large tracts of land. Around 7 lakh hectares of land in the state can be irrigated with the water which is legally provided to India. But then this water is underutilized in Jammu and Kashmir because there is not enough resources, funding coming forth for major hydroelectric projects in Jammu and Kashmir. So this is the point he is highlighting, because Prime Minister Narendra Modi too recently said that the treaty is discriminatory and he is planning to retain the waters of 6 rivers, including the 3 Punjab rivers, the other rivers with India only. So such stand is not required because we already have sufficient amount of water. So that is the point which is professor is making. So again, he also gives a scientific reason that it is a flat land, and if we stop the river flow, like say example, if Jhelum's flow is stopped, then it would result in flooding of the land, which is not what we want. So we don't need excess water. So he says that Indus Water Treaty is the best treaty for the 2 countries, and it warns that the countries should not, either of the 2 should not try to scrap it. It will have dangerous ramifications. He also talks of very optimistically of even a joint project, hydroelectric project, which the 2 countries can undertake. So that may or may not be possible. So it's also, he speaks out about Europe, in which there are Helsinki rules on use of water of international rivers. So riparian rights are shared between the states. So this is their examples are there in Europe as well. It works well. So India and Pakistan should also work amicably in favor of each other and allow the treaty to prevail. So this was post Uri that questions had emerged on the Indus Water Treaty. Then the next article is taxman can scrutinize political parties' accounts, says Centre. So this is with respect to a statement made by the Revenue Secretary. He said that deposits of old 500 and 1000 currency notes in bank accounts of political parties will not be taxed. So this became quite controversial. Even Mamata Banerjee raised her voice against this. But now the government has clarified that there will be scrutiny on income under the income tax laws on political parties' accounts also. But anyway, there is an exemption. So under section 13A of the Income Tax Act of 1961, the income of political parties is exempted from income tax. So this already is the provision there. So there was nothing wrong in the statement. And because of politicization by the Trinamool Congress leader Mamata Banerjee, now Minister of Finance is clarifying that there can be scrutiny. So he says that there are exemption, there are strict provisions under the income tax law, this section 13A. So all political parties which are registered, for them only exemption is there. The reason why there would be an exemption on the income which political parties earn is unknown. But anyway, so this exemption is only for registered political parties and subject to conditions that they keep and maintain books of accounts which are submitted to the accessing officer election commission. So all these provisions are there. So each voluntary contribution in excess of 2000 which the political party makes, it has to maintain a record of such contributions along with the name and address of such person who made such contribution. So that all is maintained, but anyway taxation is not there for them, anyway they are exempted. The next news item is new deal reached to complete Aleppo evacuation. So we have been hearing about the Syrian city Aleppo, which is held by the rebels. Some areas are still under rebel control, and now the deal has been reached between the rebels and the Syrian government led by Bashar al-Assad. So they have allowed evacuation of the injured also in the two villages, Shia villages, which are besieged by the rebels. So since this evacuation will also take place, so now the government has also initiated efforts, because government is a Shia government, the rebels are Sunni rebels. So the chaos which was there in Aleppo evacuation, this reflects the complexity of the civil war in Syria. So many leaders involved, so many powers involved in this country, and the country is in a mess. So it's a 6-year civil war which is undergoing and sees no end coming forth. The next news item is China seeks to diffuse tension with US. So this is the last news item. So this is regarding the underwater drone of US. This was US ship, oceanographic ship Bowditch, who had released an underwater drone, and it was, the Pentagon spokesperson says, for routine gathering of data on salinity, water temperature and etc. And this drone, which was in Subic Bay, this is off the Philippines coast. You can see here, this is Subic Bay. So Philippines is an ally of USA. So here was the ship which was undertaking this exercise, and China seized this underwater drone. So this has escalated tensions between US and China. Presently, China is seeking to diffuse these tensions and is also considering returning the drone back to US. So this is the news. Previously, we have also discussed about tensions between US and China escalating because of President-elect Donald Trump's views. He had also received a personal call from Taiwanese president congratulating him for his winning the presidential elections, and that China had not liked. So China had raised its voice, and Trump in response also questioned the support which Washington is giving over Beijing's sovereignty on Taiwan. So Beijing claims that Taiwan is part of China. We have all discussed all this. This was in news. This is recent incident, and this was in news on December 7th. So in that we have already discussed all about Taiwan and how it was formed. So you can go through that December 7th current affairs also. So this, in relation to this, we see now the tensions between US and China further escalating because of even viewpoints put forth by Trump and also China's dominance. This is South China Sea. So you already know about South China Sea. These are the controversial islands here too, which are claimed by multiple countries. And this is the place where incident took place. So just looking once again at the various islands which are under dispute and the territories which are claimed. The exclusive economic zone in water, territorial waters which are claimed, the exclusive economic zone which is claimed by various countries here. So you can see China, it is shown by red. So this is what it calls the 9-dash line too. So this is China's claim which overlaps with many other countries. You can see this blue line is Vietnam's claim. Then Malaysia is another country include. Yellow line shows Brunei is a small country here. So green line shows its claim over exclusive economic zone. Philippines is shown by this purple line. So these are the various controversial islands here. Spratly Island located here. Scarborough is here, Paracel Islands. So these are the major islands which are in dispute. So these are oil-rich, Spratly are oil-rich islands. So that is why they have strategic importance. Important sea lanes pass through this route. So that is why these are important. So that is it for today. Thank you.